September 29th, 1996, a date which has lived in NASCAR infamy, especially to fans in western North Carolina and the Southeast. That is the date that was, at the time, thought to be the last NASCAR Cup Series race to be held at North Wilkesboro Speedway. We now know that the NASCAR Cup Series is coming back next year for the All-Star race. The question I pose to NASCAR fans in general is this: was the NASCAR Cup Series better off to take North Wilkesboro Speedway off its schedule? Let's talk about it. All right. To start off with, the question I posed in the intro there was a bit of a setup. I don't think that NASCAR was better off without North Wilkesboro Speedway. I definitely don't think it's better off without the track going forward. The question I'm really asking is this: was doing without it for 26 years a fair price to pay for the moment we have right now, for the magic that's happening and the hype around what we have now with North Wilkesboro Speedway? So for some background, January 1st, 1996, that's when Mike Staley of the Staley family sold the remaining 50% of the Speedway to Bob Baer, who was then owner of New Hampshire Motor Speedway. That, along with the other 50%, which was sold the year prior to Bruton Smith and Speedway Motorsports Incorporated, effectively put ownership and control of the racetrack into the hands of two men who would benefit from seeing it removed from the schedule. Their entire purpose for buying the track was this: North Wilkesboro had 2 dates on the schedule. Bob Baer wanted one of those dates for New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Bruton Smith wanted the other one for his new Texas Motor Speedway. And since that time, there's been more and less and a general hope that the track would return one day. However, since 96 up until a couple of years ago, the people who thought and wanted the racetrack to come back were more and more looked at like the kind of guys who go camping on the weekends looking for Bigfoot. They were just kind of looked at as a little unreasonable. And so I remember that race, the race in 96, the final race at North Wilkesboro. It was 11 days from my 11th birthday. And even then, a lot of people hoped that the racetrack would make a comeback. It would remain in NASCAR in some capacity, but it was pretty clear then, looking back, that NASCAR was pretty much moving on. If you go back and watch the race, it's available on YouTube in its entirety. There's lots of talk about it being the last race. They took a big photo of all the drivers and crew before the race because it was the last race. And in Jeff Gordon's Victory Lane speech, he talked about the significance of winning the last race. It was pretty clear that NASCAR really didn't have any intent there. The racetrack fell into extreme disrepair. This has been well documented. It would have been a great scene for a post-apocalyptic movie. The racetrack was dead, like dead as Elvis. They just forgot to bury the darn thing, and nature did a pretty good job of that itself. There's been the Save the Speedway campaigns, but nothing really took hold. 2010 saw some races at the Speedway for the first time since 96. And they just didn't have the support. And I think after that, Speedway Motorsports pretty much considered the place dead. So then 2 things happened. And we cannot overstate the importance of these 2 things happening to bring the Speedway back, and in the order in which they happened and the proximity. Thing number 1, Dale Earnhardt Jr., for one, is a genius, decided to bring a crew of people down from iRacing, Marcus Smith from Speedway Motorsports Incorporated, and a few others to clean the surface of the racetrack up to get it ready to be scanned for iRacing so they could preserve the track in digital form, which was a great idea, by the way. The second thing, what else happened in December 2019? At the time, no one really knew yet. However, a few months later, we found out that there was a virus, which later known as the COVID-19 virus. That happening shortly thereafter was important because when they scanned the track for iRacing, that stirred up a renewed interest. Now, that renewed interest has happened before, and there's been letdown after letdown after letdown. I myself have seen 100 news stories in my lifetime about North Wilkesboro Speedways coming back, or there's renewed interest, there's renewed hope, and there's always a letdown. So there had been this renewed interest again after it was scanned for iRacing. The important thing was this time Speedway Motorsports Incorporated itself was involved in that. Then the COVID-19 pandemic hits, and the states are allotted money as part of a relief fund for the states to do with it as they saw fit. Because of that renewed interest, because of that fervor around the racetrack, based on what had happened in December, the state saw fit to allocate $20 million of that to North Wilkesboro and more money to North Carolina racing industry in general. $20 million sounds like a lot of money, but if you saw the condition the racetrack was in, you could see how that could go very quickly. So where does that leave the rest of the repairs that need to be done? In the hands of Speedway Motorsports. And again, because of the momentum that had been building, they saw an opportunity there. Come Bristol spring date this year, they announced they would be racing at North Wilkesboro in the 2022 year. Huge announcement. I mean, this was a big deal. This has been less than a year ago. They had said, there's a Cup Series race. Don't even get your hopes up. The best the Speedway could hope for going forward, as far as NASCAR was concerned, would be a Truck Series, maybe an Xfinity Series race. And that was a big maybe. They called it the Racetrack Revival. It was to be headlined by a Cars Tour event, late model stock event. Dale Earnhardt Jr. announced he was going to run that event. And the hype is not something that can be recreated. That can only happen when you miss something for so long. You've gotten your hopes up so many times and been let down so many times. I was there at that Cars Tour race, and I'm telling you, I sat there and looked around and from turn 2 over the entire track and just thought, look at this place. Just look at this place. I can't believe it. I cannot believe I'm sitting here right now. If you watch Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s interview after the race, he's gushing with emotion for this event. And I'm telling you, I'm not a race car driver. I'm a fan. I felt the same way he did. I felt exactly like he did. I've been going racing since I was a kid in 1992, and I'm here to tell you what I felt that day was very similar to the very first time I ever walked through the tunnel at Charlotte Motor Speedway when I was 7 years old and saw that track and those cars for the first time. That's how I felt that day. It was something that can only be it can't be manufactured. It has to happen organically. Question is, can we hold on to that? Was that a one-time thing? Was that lightning in a bottle? I do believe NASCAR can hold on to that going forward. I think they can make this that magic that was there that night. I think they can capture that and keep it going. Baseball has Fenway Park. This could be NASCAR's Fenway Park. There are challenges in the way. There's a few concessions that fans are going to have to understand. Fans these days don't wait in traffic lines for hours. When I was going to Charlotte races as a young kid, I don't know what time we left because I was a young kid, but we left the house when it was still dark. And when we got to North Carolina, just 45 minutes from the track, it was still dark. The reason why? Because we knew we were going to sit in traffic. That was part of the deal. That was part of the deal all through the late 90s. You're going to sit in traffic for a couple hours. Since then, they've done major improvements to that area. And I would like to think that's probably in the works for North Wilkesboro if it shows itself to be viable. That's just one of the concessions. The other ones are creature comforts. They're not going to be the same as they are at a regular racetrack. You're going to have to go to this event knowing you're getting a really cool experience, a glimpse back in time, but you're not going to have the creature comforts you have at the Charlotte Motor Speedway or at even Darlington. This is going to be an event unique. If fans can embrace that going forward, I think we have something really special, and I'm glad it's back. To back up a little bit, to give you some idea of how dead this place was, in January of 2017, there was an article written by Scott Fowler of the Charlotte Observer that was titled, "Hey, old NASCAR fans, get over it. The past is not coming back." It tells you right there what the general consensus was. Most people, myself included, did not consider this place. It was, like I said before, it was dead and gone. October 8th, 2021. This is pretty freaking recent. Andrew Carter of the Charlotte Observer. This article was titled, "25 years after its biggest industry abandoned it, North Carolina town waits for what may never come." This was after the iRacing scan. This was, I think, after the money from the state had been allocated. I think this was a cautionary article. We've gotten our hopes up before, and we've been let down every time. this may still not ever happen. That article was updated in January 2022. This year, same year as we're sitting in right now. For perspective, Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway has been fighting to get a NASCAR date back for many, many years. One of the biggest obstacles they have to overcome is the fact that the people around the community don't want NASCAR racing there, to try to bring a race back there. That is not a problem in North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. The people there want this. They want it in the worst way. And, man, I think we got an opportunity to really see something special happen here. To answer my original question, yes, I think it was absolutely worth it to lose North Wilkesboro Speedway for 20 years just to have the magic we have right now. I'm curious to know what everybody else thinks. If you've made it this far and you haven't already liked and subscribed to my channel, please do so. I really appreciate it. I got more content coming out in the next couple of weeks to kind of help your off-season withdrawals. I know I'm personally, I don't know what to do with myself on a Sunday. So hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving. Have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you soon.